Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. And this is going to be a brief video. If you haven't seen my past videos, including our documentary Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, my interview with the lawyer who's been fighting Jeffrey Epstein for the last decade, and many other reports, please do check out our website, theconsciousresistance.com, search Jeffrey Epstein, and you'll find all you need to. And of course, if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, scroll on down here, and you will get this mostly every weekend. I've been on the road lately, so I haven't sent it out in a few weeks. I will get to it this weekend if everything goes well, if I have the time. But yeah, sign up there to stay tuned to our content and, of course, our YouTube channel. So yesterday I noticed that Jeffrey Epstein was trending on Twitter. You see right here, Epstein. This is as of yesterday. If I refresh this, he might not be trending anymore. But he was trending with more than 120,000 tweets and many, many different articles and people talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Finally, the mainstream ready to talk about him after channels like ours have been talking about him for years now, several years. The reason being that the judge in the case, his name is Kenneth Mara, said that prosecutors in Florida did violate the law by setting up Jeffrey Epstein with his quote-unquote sweetheart deal. And this guy you're looking at here, that is the Trump administration's labor secretary, Alexander Acosta, who was a lawyer down there in Palm Beach County, where Epstein was tried, and he is one of the people who helped craft this sweetheart deal. Not just was he a victim, as he claims that, well, he was a victim of Epstein's high-profile lawyers who, bent his arm, and the best they could do was to hope to just get one count of solicitation of prostitution with a minor, otherwise Epstein would have gone free. However, we've known for a while that when you look at the court records, it's clear that Acosta and the different attorneys in Florida actually worked directly with Epstein's lawyers to keep the deal secret from the victims and help them craft the best deal for Epstein. And this has now been found by U.S. District Court Judge Kenneth Mara as of Thursday to be a violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And if you guys have been following for a while, you may remember that I said that this is one of the only things that we could hope for. I went to the trial on December 4th, and that was a side trial. It wasn't really directly related to the original charges. It was more related to Epstein countersuing the lawyers who were trying to expose him. And in that case, Epstein admitted he was wrong and that he was trying to sue them because they were doing such a good job bringing to get his crimes to the light. But he did not admit any official wrongdoing as far as the molestation of more than 100 young girls who are now young women in their 20s and 30s. And Judge Kenneth Mara wrote, petitioners and their other victims should have been notified of the government's intention to take that course of action before it bound itself under the non-prosecution agreement. The non-prosecution agreement, of course, said that Epstein and his co-conspirators, whoever they may be, will not be charged and cannot be charged. And as you guys may know, Epstein was sentenced to 18 months in prison, but he actually only did 13 months, and he didn't go to prison. He went to the local, he was like at a county stockade where he had his own private wing, and he was allowed to leave for 16 hours a day on quote work release, and for 8 hours a day he slept there basically. And if that's even, who knows if that's even actually true. The judge also wrote, particularly problematic was the government's decision to conceal the existence of the non-prosecution agreement and mislead the victims to believe that the federal prosecution was still a possibility. So they straight up lied. The prosecutors kept telling the victims that we're working on a deal with them. We'll let you know when it happens. But they were actually no, they told them we're not crafting a deal yet. We'll let you know when something starts happening. Meanwhile, they were secretly already working with his people, and they set the deal. By the time the victims found out about it, the deal was already done. The judge continues, when the government gives information to its victims, it cannot be misleading. While the government spent untold hours negotiating the terms and implications of the non-prosecution agreement with Epstein's attorneys, scant information was shared with victims. Instead, the victims were told to be patient while the investigation proceeded. Of course, evidence shows that for years Epstein and his associates found teenage girls, many of them underage, very young, to visit his Palm Beach home for massages, which of course were more about molestation. The 33-page ruling from the judge makes numerous mentions of Alexander Acosta's direct involvement in the case, including his face-to-face negotiations with Epstein's attorneys. Yes, he had lunch with the attorneys and was able to craft this deal for Epstein. Critics of the deal said that the federal prosecutors were outmatched by Epstein's well-connected, high-powered defense team, but doesn't seem to be the case. And of course, the Labor Department declined to comment on this over the specifics. But this basically now sets the stage for, we don't know what's going to happen. The judge did, rule that they have been, that they did violate the law, but in the ruling Thursday, the judge left open the question of what the remedy should be as far as what to do about this legal violation that the prosecutors did. Ideally, this would open Epstein up for more lawsuits. And the problem is that I heard from Bradley Edwards, who's the attorney who's been defending the women, is that in some cases the statute of limitations has expired, so they have to find a jurisdiction, which I believe is mainly in New York City, which is also one of the hardest places to get a district attorney to, or state, attorney general to take this case on. They have to find a place, where the statute of limitations has not been expired, and so if that happens, some of these victims could come forth, and Epstein could be retried and maybe go to prison for the rest of his life. Now, this is one part that bothers me about all this. The basic facts of the case have been established for years, but a Miami Herald report last November, including videotaped interviews with some of the victims, drew attention to the episode and prompted Democratic lawmakers to demand an investigation. Now, that's partially true. Yes, it has been known for years, and as I said, independent media has been talking about it for years. And the Miami Herald report in November was a pretty good report, and it did have new data, including interviews with some of the victims. And since it's mainstream, that, I think the mainstream lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, saw that and they called for an investigation. We reported on that as well. But the frustrating thing is, my documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, has been seen several 100,000 times. It's been seen by more people than the Miami Herald investigation. My documentary came out in early October, and I think that documentary played just as much of a role in waking people up to these things as, the Miami Herald report, if not more. And I'm not sitting here trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's frustrating after a while when these people constantly claim that they're the ones who are breaking the stories. Now, if you want to get more into past Epstein videos, you can see this, the evidence for Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad connection. And as I said, we reported a couple of weeks ago when the DOJ Inspector General claimed that they would investigate Epstein. So there is some traction. It's getting some momentum, and I hope that this continues. I hope that this judge does decide that Epstein is now open to further lawsuits, and that more of the women will feel strong enough to come forward and to go after this guy, because he's a horrible person. He should be put in jail. And I don't like Rachel Maddow, but even her, she's pointing out, even if Alex Acosta were not a Trump cabinet official right now, this federal court ruling about his behavior in the Epstein case should put him in headlines across the country, because now you can see the documents that make it clear that Acosta was writing to Epstein attorney Ken Starr, "I am directing our prosecutors not to issue victim notification letters until this Friday at 5 p.m. to provide you with time to review these options with your client." And eventually no letters were even sent. So he basically told them, like, hey, we're going to keep them in the dark while we work this out with you. So, as I said, Acosta tries to play himself as the victim of Epstein's high-profile attorneys, but he straight up worked with them. And for the Trump supporting crowd, you got to ask yourself then, if Trump is going after human trafficking, if Trump is draining the swamp, then why did he appoint this man? Can you answer that? I don't think you can, without realizing that Trump is a part of the machine. He is the swamp, just like every other president and every other president that will come afterwards, because it's all a controlled system, and the only solution is to exit that system with your energy, your money, your time, and your support, and create something new through what we call counter economics. And you can learn all about that on our website. So that's all I got for you guys today. Just a quick check-in update on that. Get back to the important news. I've got 2 or 3 more videos planned that are very important. One related to 5G, and one related to government and seizing of powers by the Democratic and Republican parties. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, remember,